if we don't show up tomorrow, it is entirely possible we won't be able to cast a ballot.
Well, I think it's ridiculous. You know, Oprah, I was on her last show, or one of her last shows, and they picked the biggest people and all of that, and made a big deal. And I'm disappointed. I think Oprah's become a major divider in our country, and I think, frankly, she should be ashamed of herself. And you know who else should be ashamed? Fox, because I've seen Oprah on Fox about 50 times making the same statement, and I think it's a disgrace what Fox does, because everyone thinks Fox is so pro-Trump. They're not pro-Trump at all. They've put Oprah on all morning long. That's all I see is Oprah. And, you know, I do Oprah very well. She's been in Mar-a-Lago many times. Roger King had his funeral. That's the head of King World, which was Oprah's mentor. And Oprah chose the location. She said, Mar-a-Lago is the most beautiful place. Would it be possible to have Roger's funeral at Mar-a-Lago in the ballroom? We did it. The only time I've ever had a funeral there. And I think Oprah should be ashamed of herself to say that. She should be ashamed. She knows me. She wanted to run with me as a vice president. She was going to be the vice president. She wrote me a letter. It's in the book. And now she goes to make statements like that. She's a divider. And Barack Hussein Obama is a divider, too.
Oprah Winfrey, the undisputed queen of talk shows and one of America's most powerful voices, has just stunned the world with a statement no one saw coming. Known for her lifelong mission to uplift and inspire, Oprah's recent message carries a surprising, almost urgent tone, leaving everyone questioning what's behind this unexpected shift.
We don't show up tomorrow. It is entirely possible that we will not have the opportunity to ever cast a ballot again.
Actually, I'm disappointed. I think Oprah's become a major divider in our country. And I think, frankly, she should be ashamed of herself. And you know who else should be ashamed? Fox. Because I've seen Oprah on Fox about 50 times making the same statement. And I think it's a disgrace what Fox does, because everyone thinks Fox is so pro-Trump. They're not pro-Trump at all. They've put Oprah on all morning long. That's all I see is Oprah.
When Oprah speaks with such rare intensity, it's clear that something deeply profound is weighing on her mind.
He's released a book where he's published letters that he's received over the years. One of your letters is front and center.
I heard about that.
Okay, back in 2000, you wrote him, "Too bad we're not running for office. What a team."
I think he'd written a book and said that he wanted me to be his running mate.
If he decided to run.
If he decided to run. And when I heard that this letter is now going to be a part of a book, I thought, oh, wasn't that nice of me to write a note? That's what I thought. Because I'm always like, oh, I should write a note. The person did this, or I should write a note. So I'm really happy that I wrote a note.
Yeah, it just shows you have good manners, but you're not thinking you and Donald Trump would be a team.
No.
You weren't thinking it.
I might have thought it back then. I might have thought it 23 years ago. Yes.
Are you thinking that today?
No, I'm not thinking.
Okay.
You want to clear that?
For decades, Oprah has been a beacon of inspiration for millions, building an empire founded on positivity, success, and the pursuit of living one's best life. She has stood as a pillar of unwavering strength and hope for countless people around the world.
And ultimately, the question before us is, what kind of country do we want to live in? And the beauty of a democracy, as long as we can hold on to it, the beauty of a democracy is each of us has the power. Each of us has the power to answer that question.
That's right. Everybody on this.
For Oprah to reach this point and step forward with such a powerful concern signals that something truly significant weighs on her mind, something that, as a nation, we may not be able to afford to ignore.
With that Afghanistan nightmare, that was the most embarrassing day probably in the history of our country. The way they did that, getting out was fine, but you get out with dignity and strength. What they did was so bad. When you look at October 7th in Israel, it would have never happened. And you look at the Russian attack of Ukraine, would have never, ever happened. Not even a thought of it. Think of it. Think of how different this world would have been. Think of how different this country would have been. Our country, which is just going so bad. It's so bad. Millions and millions of people are pouring into our country, and they come from jails. They come from mental institutions and insane asylums. They're terrorists at a level that nobody's ever seen before, and they...
So, what's really happening? Oprah recently stepped forward with a powerful plea, and this isn't just another celebrity cause or motivational speech. This time, her words carried a rare urgency, like an alarm bell that couldn't be ignored.
The deep divisions that linger among Americans nearly a year after the presidential election. In her debut last night as a 60 Minutes special contributor, Oprah Winfrey traveled to Michigan to moderate a heated focus group. In a portion you will see only on CBS This Morning, Winfrey spoke with one participant about debating freely, finding common ground, and securing the border.
The biggest thing that maybe we've started to lose in America, and what is the biggest danger to the republic, is we've lost the ability to debate freely. To sit down and have intense, passionate, rational debates. And you know what? People may have feelings hurt, and we may really not like each other when we're done. But when we stop having that ability, when we lose the ability to debate ideas, the republic is over.
Is there a way for us all to reach some kind of common ground where all sides can be heard and that is possible? And if we could do that at this table, why isn't it possible for Congress?
Well, the thing is, if Oprah, if I want to sell you a bushel of apples for $20 and you only want to pay me 10, it does me no good if I say, no, the price is 20 and I walk back to my truck, and it does you no good if you say, well, I'm only willing to pay 10. Right. At some point, we have to come together and figure out how we're going to get to $15 at some point.
12.
Fair enough. And that's what bothers me about Congress is you've got people over here saying, no way ever, and you've got people saying no way ever. When you have conversations with people, you take the hot button issues off the table, you look for the common ground, you look for the common denominator, and then you work from there.
How many workers?
The day after our tabletop talk, we visited fourth-generation farmer Jeff Vanderwerf at one of his orchards outside Grand Rapids.
What did you think of our discourse last night? What did you think of all that?
You know, I thought it was really good, really interesting discussion. Got to visit with a lot of people that I wouldn't normally interact with in my day.
Oprah spoke with deep conviction about the importance of every voice in this country, warning that we're all at risk if we don't use those voices wisely. It felt less like a casual reminder and more like a powerful call to action. And when it's coming from Oprah, you know it's serious.
So it was eye-opening.
We were talking last night about whether or not your Congress gets you, whether or not the president gets you. Do you think most of America gets what it takes to do what you do out here every day?
Unfortunately, I believe the vast majority of Americans really have no clue what it takes to do a lot of what we do out here. I mean, everything you see behind us, all these apples are hand-picked. Every apple in the United States is hand harvested. There are no machines for this. So we depend on migrant labor, on skilled migrant labor to come in and do this. We have had, over the years, dozens of American, domestic American citizens show up and say, yeah, I'd like to pick apples. Most of them don't make it through a day.
So how are the immigration laws going to affect you being able to get workers to do this?
Personally, I think we probably ought to let more people into this country at some point. But we have to have a handle on who's coming in, when they're coming in, where they're coming from, all these things.
So if President Trump were here right now, what would you advise him about immigration?
I would advise the president to continue the path to securing the border, because we have to have a secure national border. I agree.
Does that mean building the wall?
I think it does mean building a wall, but it has to be a wall with, as he said during his campaign, I think it was a big, beautiful door in it or something to that effect. We need immigrant workers to come into this country for a variety of skills and positions, and we allow them to come in and to fill jobs that we have here.
Boy, I really liked that interview, and I really thought Jeff gave a very important perspective about people who are doing hard work on the front lines of agriculture and other things that really know running a business, picking apples by hand. That perspective is incredibly important.
Yeah, he really did show sort of understanding both sides of a question and seeking common ground.
I thought it was interesting to see all the passion around the table last night watching it. And I like what Jeff also said, that we have to be able to have passionate, rational conversation in this country. And so many times we don't do that. It's just anger and you don't hear the other.
Let's take a moment to truly consider this. Oprah has been a central figure for decades, witnessing some of the most defining moments in American history: the civil rights movement, political transformations, the rise of media, and its profound influence on society.
With 10 first-time voters for Philadelphia! So Phoenix, I hear you did research before voting.
I did. It was really important to me that like the policies that Kamala Harris has proposed for women's reproductive rights and education equality are what led me to cast my ballot for her.
Fantastic. And Eddie, I heard you stood in line because
honestly, it was an honor as an African American to exercise my right to vote, which my ancestors fought so hard for. And as a professional soccer player for the Philadelphia Union, I know that God, He gave me the opportunity to be a leader in this platform to encourage my peers and all of you out here to stand for what's right. Go Kamala.
And Sophia, you haven't voted yet, but you're getting up at what time tomorrow to go vote?
7 a.m.
7 a.m. when it's open, okay?
And my family's from Puerto Rico, so voting.
Puerto Rico!
So voting this election just means so much to me, and I plan to become a future OBGYN. And I'm so excited to vote for Kamala Harris to ensure my future patients' freedom.
That's fantastic. We need more female OBGYNs. And so all of you are voting tomorrow morning, getting up early, voting tomorrow morning. Thank you for exercising your freedom of expression and your power as citizens of this country. How many first-time voters? Raise your hand, first-time voters. Beautiful to see you. Thank you all for coming here.